I never thought my own sister would put my life in danger for a Starbucks latte, but that's exactly what happened. Here's how it all went down. I was just sitting on the couch, scrolling through my phone when my sister burst into the room. She always had a way of making her presence known, even without saying a word. I could tell she was in a bad mood from the way she slammed the door behind her. I didn't think much of it, though, and went back to my phone. A few minutes passed before she spoke up. "Hey, can you go get me a Starbucks?" she asked, without preamble. I looked up, surprised. Not right now," I said, gesturing to the insulin pump attached to my waistband. "I can't really leave the house at the moment." She rolled her eyes. "Oh, come on, you can go for 5 minutes. I just really want a latte." I sighed. My sister had never really understood the gravity of my condition. I tried to explain to her that I couldn't just leave the house whenever I wanted, that I needed to monitor my blood sugar levels and make sure I had everything I needed with me before I went out. But she never listened. She always seemed to think that her needs were more important than mine. I tried to reason with her, but she wouldn't listen. Her demands became more and more persistent, and I started to feel trapped. I couldn't leave the house, but I also couldn't reason with her. "Karen, I can't leave the house right now. I need to monitor my blood sugar levels and make sure everything is in order before I go out," I said, trying to remain calm. Karen let out an exasperated sigh. "Oh my God, it's just a Starbucks. It's not like you're dying or anything." I felt my blood begin to boil. "Actually, I am. If I don't take care of myself, I could end up in the hospital or worse." Karen rolled her eyes. You're so dramatic. It's not that big of a deal." I tried to explain to her the severity of the situation, but she wouldn't listen. She kept insisting that I owed her a latte, and that I was being selfish for not going to get it. "Karen, I'm not being selfish. I physically can't leave right now. You'll have to wait until later," I said, trying to reason with her, but she wouldn't let it go. She started to get aggressive, her voice rising with every word. "You never do anything for me. You're always so wrapped up in your own little world, you never think about anyone else." I felt a wave of frustration wash over me. I had tried to be patient, but it seemed like nothing I said was getting through to her. "Karen, that's not true. I do plenty of things for you, but I can't risk my health just to get you a latte." Karen crossed her arms, her face twisted into a scowl. "Fine then, I'll just go get it myself." I watched as she stormed out of the room, feeling a mix of relief and anger. I couldn't believe she would be so selfish and entitled. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My sister, the entitled Karen, had just cut the tube connecting my insulin pump to my body. I felt a wave of panic wash over me as I realized what had happened. My insulin pump was my lifeline, and without it, my blood sugar levels could spiral out of control. I turned to face Karen, who was standing there with a smug look on her face. "What did you do?" I shouted, my voice shaking with anger and fear. "I cut your stupid pump," she said, shrugging. "What's the big deal?" I couldn't believe the level of entitlement and selfishness she was displaying. "The big deal? The big deal is that you just put my life in danger, Karen. Do you even understand what you've done?" She rolled her eyes. "Oh, calm down. It's not like you're gonna die or anything." I felt a surge of rage course through me. How could she be so callous about something so serious? "You don't get it, do you? This isn't some little inconvenience. This is my life, my health, and you just put it at risk because you wanted a stupid latte." Karen just shrugged again, as if it was no big deal. "Whatever, it's not like you can't just get a new one." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Was she really that ignorant about my situation? "It's not that simple, Karen. It's not like I can just go down to the store and pick up a new one. These things are expensive, and they take time to get. And in the meantime, my health is in danger." Karen just stood there, looking bored. "Well, it's not my problem. You should have just got me my latte when I asked." I felt a surge of anger and frustration. How could she be so entitled and selfish? "That's not the point, Karen. The point is that you deliberately put my health at risk because you wanted something that you didn't need. How can you be so selfish?" Karen just shrugged again. "I don't know. I just wanted my latte. Is that so wrong?" I felt like screaming. How could she be so oblivious to the severity of the situation? "Yes, Karen, it is wrong. You can't just go around putting other people's lives in danger because you want something. That's not how the world works." Karen just looked at me blankly, as if she didn't understand what I was saying. "I still don't see what the big deal is. It's not like you're gonna die or anything." I felt a surge of anger and frustration. Was she really that ignorant? "That's not the point, Karen. The point is that you deliberately put my health at risk because you wanted something that you didn't need. How can you be so selfish?" Karen just shrugged again. "I don't know. I just wanted my latte. Is that so wrong?" I felt like screaming. How could she be so oblivious to the severity of the situation? "Yes, Karen, it is wrong. You can't just go around putting other people's lives in danger because you want something. That's not how the world works." Karen just looked at me blankly, as if she didn't understand what I was saying. "I still don't see what the big deal is. It's not like you're gonna die or anything." I felt a surge of anger and frustration. Was she really that ignorant? "That's not the point, Karen. The point is that you deliberately put my health at risk because you wanted something that you didn't need. How can you be so selfish? Karen just shrugged again. I don't know, I just wanted my latte. Is that so wrong? I felt like screaming. How could she be so oblivious to the severity of the situation? Yes, Karen, it is wrong. You can't just go around putting other people's lives in danger because you want something. That's not how the world works. I explained to Karen the seriousness of what she had done, but she still seemed to be in denial. She tried to play it off like it was no big deal, but I knew better. I needed medical attention, and fast. I called out for help, and luckily my parents were home. They rushed into the room, their faces filled with concern. I explained to them what had happened, and they quickly sprang into action. My dad took me to the hospital, while my mom stayed behind to deal with Karen. I was in a lot of pain, both physical and emotional. I couldn't believe that my own sister would do something like that to me. At the hospital, I received the treatment I needed and was able to stabilize my blood sugar levels, but the whole experience had left me shaken. I couldn't believe that Karen could be so selfish and entitled, and I didn't know how to move forward from here. When I got home from the hospital, Karen was waiting for me in the living room. She looked like she had been crying, but I didn't feel any sympathy for her. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't realize how serious it was." I just shook my head. "You should have known better, Karen. You can't just go around doing things like that to people. You put my life at risk because you wanted a latte." Karen looked down at the ground. "I know, I'm sorry. I'll do anything to make it right." I just sighed. "I don't know what to say, Karen. You really hurt me today. I don't know how we can move forward from here." Karen looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. "Please, just give me another chance. I'll do anything to make it up to you." I thought for a moment. I didn't know if I could forgive her for what she had done, but I also didn't want to hold a grudge forever. "Okay, Karen, I'll give you another chance. But you need to understand that what you did was very serious. You can't just go around doing things like that to people." Karen nodded, tears still streaming down her face. "I understand. I'm so sorry." I didn't know if things would ever be the same between us, but at least we were starting to move in the right direction. Just heard this crazy story on YouTube. Can't believe some people can be so entitled and selfish. Glad the protagonist is okay, but man, that Karen needs to learn some serious lessons in empathy and respect. I never thought my boyfriend's freeloading mom would become a living nightmare, but her manipulative tactics and constant lies turned our once peaceful home into a battleground. As the days ticked away towards her departure, tensions rose and secrets unraveled. Little did we know the final countdown would reveal a shocking twist. Here's how it all went down. I've lived with my boyfriend, 21 years old, his brother, 24 years old, and the brother's girlfriend, 24 years old, ever since they were evicted from my boyfriend's mother, 55 years old and fully able-bodied, home a few years back. Before she was evicted, she made a deal with her employers to turn her big house owned by her father into a senior living facility. She stopped working as much, while spending almost all her money in secret. Her employers ended up letting her go and getting them all evicted. Now there is a lawsuit involved. She and her father stayed in hotel rooms together. Her daughter, still a minor, had to go live with her father. My boyfriend's mom spent so much of her then-husband's money that she ended up leaving him in a lot of debt. They divorced, and she has always continued to talk negatively about him in general and as a parent to everyone, including me and her kids. She had most of the custody, so she collected a lot of child support, which was not always spent on the kids. She even tried to continue to collect child support from him for my boyfriend once he turned 18. After a bit of their mom staying with her father in hotel rooms running out of money, she begged us to let them both come stay with us, rent-free. My boyfriend's brother and his girlfriend were very hesitant to allow this, because she has lied to my boyfriend's brother about money situations so much in the past. We all still agreed to give them a place to stay while she got her stuff together. Our only condition was that she had to get a job as soon as possible. She ended up going back and forth on if she was getting a job or not. In the end, she completely refused, so we told her they had to go. They went back to staying in hotel rooms together. Her father is old and showing signs of dementia, and she doesn't handle it the best. She ends up telling us she cannot handle taking care of him, ironically, and she ends up arranging for him to fly back to his home county to live there with other family that can take care of him. She continues to be jobless, staying in hotels by herself for a while, and ends up meeting this other guy who is also homeless, around 30 years old. They end up staying together in hotels, splitting the cost of the rooms, food, adult content, cigarettes, etc. At one point, she ends up getting a job, but ends up quitting because she didn't like it without having any backup plan. She continues to be jobless for the whole rest of the time with this guy, and even gets a cat and dogs, claiming she can't work because she has to take care of them. This goes on for a while, and she starts telling us how rude and verbally abusive he is, and how she cannot live there anymore, or she will probably just kill herself. She begs us again if she can move in rent-free, gaslighting and guilt-tripping, of course. We had an in-person meeting with her to tell her that she could stay with us, but only under certain conditions. She had to have a job before moving in, refrain from smoking cigarettes due to our non-smoking rental, be transparent about her finances, and not have any pets. She initially said she would rather stay with her boyfriend if she couldn't bring her dog, trying to guilt-trip us and gaslight us into letting her have her way. Eventually we agreed that she could bring her small dog on the condition that she potty train it to go outside instead of on our carpet. However, she didn't have a job when she arrived, claiming she would apply like crazy to get one as soon as possible. We gave her some leeway, but made it clear she needed to have a job within a month. Instead of actively job searching, she spent her free time decorating the house with unwanted and tacky decorations, engaging in arts and crafts using our supplies, tanning, and offering to rearrange our bedrooms. She didn't prioritize getting her life together and finding a job. Despite this, she continued to ask us for money for random things like wigs, sewing supplies, weed, and vapes. She also kept going back and forth on whether she would get a job or not, even quitting a job she had lined up on the day before she was supposed to start. After reminding her that she couldn't live with us if she didn't have a job, she finally started putting in effort and applying for jobs. Eventually, she got a job after 2 months, but was only scheduled for minimum wage and barely earned enough to take home $1,000 a month. Despite her financial situation, she continued to ask us to buy her things, while she spent her money on craft supplies, weed, and vapes. She even asked for my advice on whether she should keep applying at other places, but she didn't take it into account. Throughout this whole process, she caused arguments in our group chat over trivial matters, lied about smoking cigarettes in the house, neglected to properly potty train her dog, made rude and offensive remarks, tried to assert control over our house, lied about legal issues and financial matters, took our groceries without permission, damaged our belongings without apologizing, acted entitled to our possessions, and created numerous other problems. She consistently portrayed living with us as horrible, accused us of being abusive for setting rules, and claimed she had a better place to stay where she would receive more help, despite not actually having any alternative options. We have informed her that she has 1 month to figure out where she will go, as she can no longer stay with us. We are fed up with the situation and eagerly counting down the days until we have the house to ourselves again. We anticipate that she will try to gaslight us and guilt trip us as the deadline approaches and she doesn't want to leave. We are relieved to no longer bear the burden of her presence and hope that this will serve as a wake-up call for her to get her life together and be able to provide for her minor daughter once again. The whole time she has been causing arguments in the group chat with all of us over random things like her assuming I'm mad she is lying down over a door closed a little loudly. She also had lied about smoking cigarettes at the house, has barely tried to potty train her dog, says rude, racist, homophobic, and transphobic things constantly, trying to boss us around in our house, lies about legal problems and how much money she has and makes, took some of our groceries without asking, broken things, and when asked, ignored us, did not apologize, act entitled to our belongings, and many other problems. My boyfriend's mom said, "Living with all of you sucks. You are literally holding me by my neck with all these stupid rules, and I know for sure there's a place out there for me where I can live peacefully and get more." She doesn't, or she would have been gone. She's just trying to make us feel bad for her. And it's not like we can just have a mature conversation with her when a problem arises, because in her eyes, she is never wrong, completely entitled to her son's money and things, and being taken care of by them, and can never admit when she is wrong. Instead, she takes it as a personal attack and just gets angry with us, shutting us down without understanding our side at all, or apologizing. The importance of setting and enforcing boundaries is absolutely right. It can be challenging when someone continually ignores those boundaries, but it's crucial not to enable their behavior. If she talks about suicide, it's essential to take it seriously and prioritize her safety. Contacting the police or the suicide hotline can provide the necessary support and intervention. Following through with actions and commitments is crucial to ensure accountability and maintain a healthy environment. If you enjoyed today's stories, check out the other videos on your screen now. Submit your own stories at you'rethejerk.com. Subscribe now, or you're definitely the jerk. My uncle is draining my 100-year-old grandfather's bank account dry every month. I never thought that moving my 100-year-old grandfather out of my uncle's apartment would unleash a terrifying battle for control over his finances. Every month, my uncle continues to drain my grandfather's bank account, and no matter how hard I try to protect him, my uncle's relentless requests for money never seem to end. It's a race against time to save my grandfather from financial ruin. And here's how it all went down. Background: My maternal grandfather had two children, my mom and my uncle. Grandma died over 30 years ago. Mom passed away 3 years ago. Up until last year, Grandpa lived with my drug addict uncle in an apartment in a suburb of my city. When my uncle passed out while standing up and hurt his hip so badly that he had to go to the hospital for surgery and rehab almost 2 years ago, my siblings and I realized just how bad Grandpa's living conditions in that terrible apartment were. The heavily blood-stained bedsheets alone would be enough to make you feel disgusted. It took me a few months due to my own living situation, but I was able to move Grandpa in with me last year. We had to strip him down and change him into brand new clothes without letting them touch any surface. We had him walk barefoot to the car and bring nothing with him but his walker, wallet, phone, charger, and glasses case. So far, it appears we avoided bringing any bedbugs along. My uncle didn't want me to, of course, but what was he going to do? Any complaint or call he tried to make would result in someone from some agency seeing his apartment, and he would get evicted at best and arrested at worst. Grandpa was in such bad shape, I was 100% positive all I could do was let him spend his last few days or weeks in a clean, pleasant environment. Instead, he went from a size medium to a size extra large, celebrated his 100th birthday, and is still going strong. At my uncle's, he always claimed he wasn't hungry, but now that no one was telling him they couldn't afford food, he had a 100% normal appetite, mostly for pudding, but he's under doctor's orders to eat whatever he wants. I bought him a bed, mattress, clothes, 2 whole wardrobes when he gained weight from actually being able to eat, things to store them in, a comfy chair, and a table. He's still using the Android I got him a few weeks after Mom died since he couldn't borrow hers anymore. He can never remember how to text or make calls, but he can answer calls and loves to surf the web. It's on my plan, and I pay the whole bill. The cable and internet had been shut off at the apartment for months, so I had upgraded to an unlimited data plan, and it had been his only source of entertainment there. I don't take any money from him for utilities or other household expenses. My roommate allowed him to use a mini fridge, nightstand, and 2 lamps that he's not using. My brother bought him a TV and brought over an entertainment center from his garage to display it. The grandkids and great-grandkids are able to come visit him. No one but me could bear to set foot in that filthy apartment, even before we realized how severe the conditions were. No way could we subject children to it. We've had 2 big parties for his 100th birthday and Father's Day. We have 4 cats here whom he loves to receive visits from throughout the day. I registered him to vote at this address and order him a mail-in ballot every primary and general election. I was able to get him set up with the VA's home care program, so VA doctors come to give him checkups, vaccines, draw his blood for testing, etc. Here at home, something my uncle never could have done even if he had the energy to be aware of it because he couldn't let medical personnel see the filth he was living in there. A social worker came to meet with him and got his wishes regarding care and end of life on the record. They have a home health aide come 3 times a week to do bathing, shaving, etc., and connected us with a podiatrist who makes house calls for the elderly for nail care. Yes, old people's nails really are incredibly thick and stiff and can't just be clipped like ours, but I digress. So his toenails are no longer sharp and gnarly. In short, his life and health are vastly improved and happier here. My sister, a medical assistant, regularly texts me thanking me for taking him in so he wouldn't end up in the nursing homes she sees on the job. It was around Father's Day this year that my dad voiced what I'd been feeling for a while but never said aloud or let myself fully consciously think that I saved his life. My uncle handed over Grandpa's debit card when we moved him out. He must have known I would just apply for a new one for him if he didn't. I had snagged a bank statement from the apartment in the weeks leading up to moving him out, so I had Grandpa's account number, and Grandpa knows his own social security number, thank goodness, or I wouldn't be able to refill his prescriptions by phone. So with his consent and participation, I set up mobile banking for his account on my phone to monitor his balance and track his social security and war pension deposits. Most expenses are for paying for medications online, Instacart orders, and $300 a month to a debt collector because, of course, he just gave my mom his credit card a few years before she tragically passed away, and no one was making payments on it for years. We received a letter about that shortly after I filed his change of address. The debt was in his name, and I didn't want to deal with the hassle of them continuing to pursue him while he was alive or after he passed away, so I set up a monthly payment plan online. It will be paid off in 3 more months. My uncle had also allowed Grandpa's medical bills to go unpaid for a while and eventually signed him up for a small monthly payment plan because paying it all at once would have meant less money for my uncle at the time. I paid off the balance in full. Naturally, my uncle took all his money when Grandpa lived with him. The first month after we moved him out, my uncle tried to tell me Grandpa still owed him half the rent every month because his name was on the lease. I believed him but called the manager at the number listed in their lobby and asked when their lease was up and shared the story of how I had to move him out because my uncle could no longer care for him. The manager was confused. Grandpa's name wasn't on the lease, only my uncle's. You don't say? My uncle never responded to my text mocking him for such a silly lie. But just because Grandpa was out from under his roof didn't mean the requests for money stopped. For one, my uncle had already entered Grandpa's debit card in the Grubhub app on his phone, so he still regularly uses it to order Grubhub several times a month. Was doing it almost daily before I finally lost my temper over it via text. They both have Cash App on their phone, and while Grandpa doesn't know how to use it, when my uncle asks for money, Grandpa always consents, so I have to send it, or Grandpa would get beyond distressed and upset. Grandpa doesn't have dementia or anything. For 100, his mental faculties are incredible. He can't remember what day it is and will ask the same question 3 times in 1 minute, but he recognizes everyone. He can read and watch TV and comprehend it all, tell you what he needs, and, except for some repeating, have completely normal conversations. But he's always been susceptible when my jerk of a mom and uncle ask for money. He is literally incapable of saying no. And if I just refuse to let him do it or refuse to let him talk to my uncle, like blocked his number or something, it would just upset him. So my uncle keeps requesting money daily, starting halfway through every month, and he always gets it. Tonight, he agreed to give my uncle $56. Too bad. It's the end of the month and he's broke. And so am I. I really am. I get paid in 2 days. I didn't tell Grandpa he's broke because he wouldn't understand why and would panic. But I did break down all expenses he had this month and texted the amounts to my uncle to prove he was broke and that it wasn't because I'm taking money from him. Between Grubhub and his constant requests for money, my uncle took $789.34 this month alone from the 100-year-old father he almost neglected literally to death. I took $35 for 2 Uber rides so I could get home faster to make him dinner on 2 days. Grandpa has told me, my money's your money to use how I want because I take care of him. I would never do that, but I do occasionally use it for Uber rides home only if I'm going home to do chores or make dinner, never for anything fun. And what did my uncle respond? I should never have set up a payment plan for the debt from that unpaid credit card bill. They would never go after a 100-year-old man. Yeah, that's the problem. I told him to take it up with them or mom, and he didn't reply. Never pay any debt is my uncle's philosophy of life. When an electric bill came when he was in the hospital, he told me to just send them $50 so they won't turn the lights off. I paid the whole $200+ balance from Grandpa's card because I didn't trust it worked that way. And the thought of Grandpa being alone in the apartment when the power went out bothered me more than him having less money in his account for my uncle to take. I shared the numbers with my sisters and dad. They agree it's unconscionable, but also have no idea how to stop it because Grandpa just won't say no, and the only alternative is upsetting him by refusing to let him keep giving the money. Would it be worth it? Would it be safe for his health? We're not afraid of our uncle getting the law or anyone involved. Again, getting any outsiders involved in his business is a risk he cannot take no matter what, but of the effect it would have on Grandpa. We currently get along great. If he starts seeing me as an enemy or lashing out at me, our living arrangement would be a disaster. That seems to be the only way to stop his son from bleeding him dry, and despite our rage over his son using him this way to fund his drug habit, nobody's suggesting we risk that. Cutting off the debit card would indeed be a good first step to prevent misuse of Grandpa's money. Having a conversation with Grandpa and explaining the need for a weekly allowance for Uncle to help him manage his bills is a thoughtful approach. By implementing this, it allows Grandpa to still support his son without enabling harmful behavior. Reminding Grandpa about Uncle's allowance after Sunday dinner and making it a ritual can help reinforce the boundaries and ensure proper management of finances. Taking the Cash App completely off Grandpa's phone is also a wise decision to prevent any unauthorized transactions.